Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Takara Tomy Jurassic World Dominion figure to take a look at. We're very close to the end of these figures, unfortunately, but we have one that is pretty much everyone's favorite as far as the dinosaur goes. We've got Rexy, the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic World, but the thing that's kind of sad about this one is we have actually had this sculpt in the past from Takara Tomy, whereas a lot of the other Dominion figures, they've given us brand new versions of the sculpts. This one was released prior, I believe actually with Fallen Kingdom, and it was in kind of like a play set sort of thing with like Owen Grady, and there was like a cage that trapped the Rex in. The only difference is we have a brand new color scheme for it this time around, as opposed to the darker grayish color scheme that we had prior. So, very cool still to get another version of it, but I would have really liked to have seen a brand new sculpted version of the Rex as well. Regardless, I'm pretty psyched to take a look at this one, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. Now, we have definitely gone over the sculpt of this Rex in the past, again with the initial review, so we don't need to take a look at the sculpt of this one. Again, if you'd like to see a more detailed look at the review of the sculpt, then definitely check out the initial review of that set. But as far as what would be different this time around, strictly the coloration. That's the only thing different. There's no new action feature or anything like that. No extras, just the paint scheme. So you can see we primarily have a nice tone of brown for the Rex. Kind of a nice light brown, but they have done a pretty good job of like giving it some alternate tones of color with some different shading and everything. One area you can see straight away is up here on the snout. You can see some darker tones of color have been added. It's like a darker brown right here running along the snout. It almost looks like we have potentially some slight shades of green within the Rex as well, but definitely dark browns for sure, and then again the lighter browns. You can see we have a yellow eye painted with a black pupil. It's not perfectly placed, but it looks okay. The mouth can open really wide, so you can see a nice tone of coloration here for the inside of the mouth. And the teeth as well are kind of sloppily painted. Not terrible, but the teeth themselves don't really look that great to begin with. They're kind of big and bulky, so that might also add to the lack of a nice paint application, because the teeth are all kind of like bunched together and just not really that great looking. So to paint them, it kind of looks more like the paint's all just kind of jumbled and everything. And then there's of course a little bit of sloppiness there on the lower jaw. It doesn't look bad, again, it's not terrible, just could have been better. You can also see some slight shading there around the eye as well, which I just noticed. I like how they've applied a lot of that paintwork with a really nice light airbrushing. Again, the yellow eye with the black pupil. And then as you lead down through the course of the neck, again, you start to see some of those random areas where they've just added some extra coloration, like right there. You can see a little bit right behind the arm, a little bit right there in front of the legs, and then the legs are actually quite loaded with it, as you can see a little bit there, running along the back of the leg, down here into the calf. No alternate tones of color in the feet, but we do have some nicely painted nails with a gray. Same deal for the fingers, and yes, they did actually get the dew claw. And then you can again see more of that coloration as we lead out the length of the tail, again with the alternate shades of like darker variations of browns, and almost looking like some slight hints of greens potentially, but there's not really much else going on as far as the coloration. You can see the underside looks like it's basically the same tone of color we have for the primary body. Again, same deal over here as far as the, the way that they painted it with that nice airbrushing. It definitely looks nice, but I think I prefer the previous version of the Rex over this one. One thing I really don't like about this Rex, though, is the way the throat is like just so oddly big and bulky. It almost looks like it'd be more like a male Rex, but not really well done. Especially, it's not that bad that it's big and bulky, but it's the way it kind of comes up, so the articulated jaw can come down so wide. Once the Rex has the mouth open, it looks okay, because now it looks like the jaw is kind of pushing the skin back, and it definitely looks a lot better. But once the jaw is closed, this area here just looks very awkward to me. But I did also notice there's like some random grays or something right here, and I don't know if that was some sort of paint mishap in the factory, because I definitely don't see that anywhere else, but there is just kind of like a random splotch of like some grays right there. Regardless, it looks okay. It's a fairly fun T-Rex, but yet again, I really would have liked to have seen a new sculpt this time around, as opposed to, again, the same reused sculpt we've had in the past. And just in case you are not familiar with it, the articulation would be the jaw, of course, We also have articulation in the legs, both legs, so you can kind of give it maybe like a walking sort of an appearance. But the Rex as a whole is crouched. You can really see that the legs are sculpted in a crouched position, and it definitely is very obvious. So like when you put the leg back, it looks okay, but because the whole Rex is crouched, it kind of looks a little weird at the same time. But you also, again, have two areas of articulation here in the tail with those kind of ball joints that some people love, some people hate, but you can see that we can articulate the tail up and down quite nicely. And if you twist the ball joint, you could probably articulate the tail side to side as well. But as far as a size goes, if we can get it standing back in a nice position, for a length you are looking at, and I just smacked him right in the face and knocked him on his tail, if I can get him to stay still, you're looking at about 6 3/4 inches, or right around 17, closing in on 17.5 centimeters. And then for a height, now of course with the legs, articulating, that's really depending on you and how you position it. In this position here currently, to the tip of the snout, you're looking at just shy of about 2.5 inches, or a little over 6 centimeters. But of course you could always, position the Rex more upward. Now the height is way higher, so it again really depends on you and your preference as far as the way you want to position your Rex. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Tyrannosaurus Rex from Takara Tomy. But you could definitely see it falls right in the same size range as your standard Takara Tomy figure. At this point, with so many Takara Tomy reviews up on the channel, and all the figures being right around the same similar size or not far off, I'd like to think you probably have a pretty good idea of the size, but if not, then hopefully one of these figures here will help you out. And then for a little Dominion action, you can see the size between the Giganotosaurus from Takara Tomy and the T-Rex. The T-Rex is obviously a bit larger than the Giganotosaurus, which I don't believe is the way that they were portrayed in the film. But regardless, again, if you were interested in a size between these two, then this should hopefully give you a pretty good idea of the fact that the Giganotosaurus is a little smaller than the Rex. And then for another comparison, we have the previously released version of the T-Rex next to the current Dominion version. And you can definitely see that the previous one had more of a grayish color scheme, which I think looks nicer than the newer brownish version from Takara Tomy, but definitely the same sculpt. If you actually close the mouth and everything, you can definitely see again, they are exactly the same sculpt. No differences at all outside of the coloration. So this brand new Takara Tomy Jurassic World Dominion Tyrannosaurus Rex is pretty cool, but it's not really that great. Like, it's definitely one of the least impressive out of all of the new Takara Tomy figures, just because it is a reused sculpt. The sculpt itself is quite nice as a whole outside of the neck area. The neck area is the only area that I'm not a big fan of, because once you get past that neck, the Rex looks a lot more like a JP Rex than the previous JP Rex that was released from Takara Tomy, as they did have an older one that looked pretty cool, but nowhere near as nice as the current version does. And again, it's definitely a lot closer to accurate compared to the older one. And the detailing throughout is really quite nice, as per usual when it comes to more modern Takara Tomy figures. It is a very nice, very highly detailed sculpt. It has scars throughout, lots of skin detail, skin movement, skin wrinkles, all the kind of stuff that you would want to see. And for its size, it's very impressive when it comes to the fine detailing. The paint application, of course, is the only thing that's new on this one compared to the previous version. And like I said, I think I like the older one a little better, but that doesn't mean the newer one is bad by any means. It still has a pretty nice looking paint job, some nice, airbrushing as far as some slight alternate tones of color have been applied, and it's applied in a nice natural way. So even though I prefer the older one, that still doesn't mean that the newer one is bad. It is still really quite nice as far as the paint scheme and paint application. There's not too much to it, but it does look good for what it is. Then you've also got some articulation with the jaw, the legs, and the tail, and that's always fun. Articulation, in my opinion, is never a bad thing. Some people aren't such huge fans of articulation, but I'm a huge fan of any dinosaur that's articulated, so I do quite like that aspect. Not a huge fan of the ball joints, but at this point, I've just become accustomed to it because there's so many figures now that I own in my collection that are Takara Tomy. It's kind of become part of their charm. The only big time downside to this figure is the fact that this one's kind of a pain in the butt all the time to get a hold of, because with the initial one, you had it in kind of like a play set, and that was was exclusive to that playset, so it was a little bit pricier than it would be to buy the Rex individually because they didn't sell it that way. Yet again, we have that same situation here where the Rex comes in a 3-pack, and again, you don't have the opportunity to buy it individually, so you have to spend a little bit extra money to get the Rex, if you want to purchase it. But I mean, it is what it is. I guess Takara Tomy has some pretty weird marketing from time to time, but again, if you are interested in grabbing this Rex, you can grab it, and you can get yourself 2 other Jurassic World Dominion figures with it, so I will include a link in the description to somewhere that I can find that actually has it. It would probably be easiest to order it from Amazon Japan if you can. And, well, shouldn't say easiest. It'd probably be cheapest to get it from Amazon Japan, or have somebody like Brett or Wes, who I've spoken of a few times, grab it for you and ship it to you. But otherwise, I'll try to find a link potentially on AliExpress or eBay or somewhere like that you can just grab it at your leisure. One way or another, it's pretty cool, just not amazing. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.